Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at SpencerFernando.com. Welcome back to the show, Spencer.
Good to be here.
Legal pot in Canada today. The rollout pretty rough depending on what province you're in. In BC, they only have one store ready to go in Kamloops, not even in Vancouver, where there's, I don't know, dozens, maybe hundreds of illegal dispensaries under the law. And we don't know if they stay open, if the government's going to prosecute them or not. Do you think they could have handled this a whole lot better?
I think so. It definitely seems like it was a tougher process getting it going than I thought it would be. They already delayed it once. Yeah, I think they're not really sure what they're doing. But, you know, for political reasons, it's about a year away from an election. I think they felt they needed to keep their promise. And so now we're just going to have to deal with the fallout of it.
The government now says they will issue pardons if you apply for simple possession. The NDP says the record should be expunged because a pardon is still not going to exclude you from travel restrictions from some countries.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue with that is, you know, it's at the time it was illegal, right? So if the government keeps going back and, you know, constantly, you know, changing kind of things retroactively, that could be a problem. I think a pardon is a good instance. I mean, it's not really a terrible crime, right? So it's not something that's really that serious. So giving a pardon is a good idea, but it's definitely not a pattern you want to see the government get into over and over again.
Municipalities and provinces say they're going to spend millions and millions on pot rule enforcement. Do you think it's necessary?
Yeah, well, I think their big concern is obviously going to be now it's going to be a government revenue source, right? And we always see how aggressive the government is in protecting their revenue. There's also going to be the concerns about impaired driving. And it's new, so I think everyone, especially in government, is quite nervous about exactly what's going to happen because it's a somewhat uncertain future.
Well, you know, depending on which state you go into, some states had very smooth rollouts. Others, like California, it's still a very confused situation. It looks like Canada has copied the California model where they don't know exactly how they're going to roll out. BC, just one store, and that means the government is giving up millions in revenue every day that they don't open enough stores. Do you think that was poorly thought out?
Well, yeah, and you know, it's interesting. They've had experts go on and say that even when it does get ramped up, there's not going to be enough government supply for demand, so there's still going to be a lot of illegal sales, you know, the black market. And then, you know, also there's people saying that, you know, groups and gangs that were selling marijuana are just shifting their sales towards meth and, you know, opioids. So it's not exactly, things are not going to necessarily get that much better.
So if we thought that the open gang warfare that we're seeing on the streets of Toronto and Vancouver is going to continue because there's still going to be huge competition in the illegal market.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a demand for illegal drugs, right? I mean, there's always going to be things in society that are illegal, people who want those things, and then people who try to supply that demand. So, you know, it may not be marijuana now, but it'll be something else. And in large cases, it still will be marijuana. You know, it's not gonna be enough government supply. And if there's anything we've seen of how the government handles things, the quality will be worse, and it'll cost more, and there won't be enough of it. So, yeah, you know, it's going to get a lot of attention for a while, but I don't think it's going to make as big a dent in the illegal market as they think it will.
The U.S. government also is not backing down on their strict rules about marijuana users. You still face a lifetime ban if you admit to a U.S. border officer that you've used it.
Yeah, I mean, which is kind of funny because there are parts of the states where you're allowed to smoke it, so it's kind of a little bit ironic, in some ways hypocritical on their part. But yeah, I mean, it's going to cause a lot of trouble for people.
I guess the one good thing about legalization is if you're walking around with 30 grams or less in your pocket, you're not going to be busted. Yeah,
I mean, and that's, I think, part of the reason why people supported either legalization or decriminalization. It's just not, the police have limited resources. There's some pretty horrible criminals and crimes to go after. Going after people with a bit of, pot, it's not really a good use of resources.
Well, before pot was even legal in Washington state, the Seattle police were told by city council that enforcing marijuana laws should be your lowest priority because there's so many other things that are more important, like catching speeders, because bad drivers kill a whole lot more people than marijuana ever has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely the case. And I think, if people want serious crimes dealt with, then you have to put resources towards serious crimes. And, decriminalization would have done that. And in some cases, there was already kind of de facto criminalization in a lot of cities where the police weren't prioritizing it that much, or they'd give people a misdemeanor when they could. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be quite as big a change as people think it is.
Police forces across the country, for their own members, have really varying rules. The Vancouver police say as long as you're fit for duty, it's okay to use marijuana. The RCMP and Toronto police have been told you can't use for 28 days before you report for duty, which is essentially a ban. Who gets a month of holidays, right?
Yeah.
So should there be a more consistent rule for that, or is just being fit for duty good enough?
I think it's good that different places try different things out. I mean, that's part of the good thing about having some decentralization. One police force will try one thing, another will try another, and then we'll see what works best, and then people can learn from that. So, yeah, I think some experimentation and different approaches in different parts of the country is probably a good thing.
I think a poll just said 19% of executives said they might use pot before going to work. Should that be a concern?
I don't think there's too many people who don't smoke marijuana now who are all of a sudden going to start smoking it. So I bet those executives are people who probably already do that. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be a big change in who actually uses marijuana.
Yes, another poll said 62% of Canadians say they don't plan to start smoking just because it's legal.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think people aren't. If it's not part of someone's life, it's not going to become, part of their life now, I think, just because the law is a little bit different.
Yes, and it was probably wrong to criminalize 40% of the population who might use it.
Yeah, it's just not a good use of resources, right? I mean, there's serious things and crimes and, people that need to be dealt with, and having the police go after kind of low level, things like people having some marijuana on them, it's just not a good use of resources. So to the extent at which it frees it up, that's good. I think the only concern is that the government always finds a way to screw things up, and I think we're going to see some of that here.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after the break.
I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features through our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE symbol CRL and the pink symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, an investigative piece that you've done. Is it true Canadian or possible that Canadian taxpayers have been funding radical Islamic terrorists?
Yeah, so Thomas Quiggin, who's an expert, national security expert, has done work with the RCMP and has studied this. He's requesting a RCMP investigation into the federal government for giving money to terrorist organizations. So the way it works, according to what he's alleging, is that the Trudeau government has been giving money to Islamic Relief Canada, which is a charity. The Islamic Relief Canada then gives money to Islamic Relief Worldwide, their parent organization, and then Islamic Relief Worldwide then gives money to Hamas, which is, it's a terrorist organization. And so these are the following groups that have warned about Islamic Relief Worldwide giving money to Hamas: Government of Bangladesh, HSBC Bank, Charities Aid Foundation, testimony to the Canadian Senate, the United Arab Emirates, Israel, UBS Bank, and the Financial Times. So there's definitely, and these are not just groups that wouldn't like a charity. These are governments, banks, newspapers, pretty credible groups saying that there's a serious problem there.
Now, if you give money to the Red Cross, has the Red Cross ever been connected to terrorism in any way?
Not that I've seen. And the thing is here, this is not it's not like a one-off. It's not like, okay, some money accidentally found its way into the wrong hands, it was a mistake, it was dealt with. There's pretty credible allegations that Islamic Relief Worldwide, a lot of people say that they're actually a front group for the Muslim Brotherhood, which is obviously connected to Hamas. And, there's a parliamentary report in Berlin. They warned about that. Switzerland is warned about that. So there's quite a lot of concern about it. The United Arab Emirates has actually banned Islamic Relief Worldwide from operating in their country. So these are even Muslim countries who are worried about the influence of Islamic Relief Worldwide and what they're doing. And Islamic Relief Worldwide gets money every year from Islamic Relief Canada. It's the partner organization, the parent organization. And if Canadian taxpayers' money is finding its way into the hands of terrorists, that's obviously a big problem.
How much money does that organization get from Ottawa?
Let's see here. I've got the numbers. Just a second. Okay, so through the M103 Islamophobia motion, the government gave $23 million to organizations that are so-called fighting Islamophobia. Some of that money went to Islamic Relief Canada. They didn't say how much. The government gave them $1.5 million through International Humanitarian Aid Program, gave them some money through the Myanmar Relief Fund, $3 million from Canadian aid to Iraq, which ended up being given to Islamic Relief Canada. The Canadian Humanitarian Assistance Fund, $292,000, $6,800 from the Canada Summer Jobs Program.
So that's a lot of change headed their way. Do you think the government did a good job of vetting them before giving them money?
I don't think so. It seems that there's some sort of double standard. If any other group, that didn't have, I guess, Islamic in the name was linked to terrorism or to hatred or extremism, the government would obviously not go anywhere near that. But it seems like there's really a double standard where they kind of just give a pass to a group if it says Islamic on it. Oh, well, maybe a few mistakes were made, but we'll still give them money. But it seems like there's a real serious problem here, and it definitely needs to be investigated.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, the National Parole Board has just denied parole for serial killer and serial rapist Paul Bernardo. A good move on their part?
Well, yeah, it's a good move that he was denied parole. I mean, he obviously should be behind bars forever. The death penalty would have been much better. I think Canada does need to bring back the death penalty. But just the fact, what people were saying, just the fact that he could even apply for parole is, disgraceful. The Conservatives had tried. I don't think they got it through the courts, but they had tried to pass legislation, where life means life. You commit a horrible crime, you get sentenced to life behind bars. That actually means life behind bars, not parole in 25 years. But, unfortunately, our justice system is still, in many cases, very weak. And, he was able to apply for parole, which, again, it sets off a process that, in many ways, re-victimizes the family of the people he killed. Because, they have to go through the process, they have to speak in court, they have to make statements, they have to go through all of it again. So it's really, the justice system really favors criminals and really hurts victims.
His wife, who was involved in the murders as well, Karla Homolka A., got a very light sentence for her role in the events, and she was allowed to change her name. Should convicted felons be allowed to change their names?
I don't think so. I mean, I think for, if it's a relatively, like a somewhat victimless crime, obviously, then people should be able to. But in terms of like violent rapes and murders, I mean, serial killers, obviously not. And someone who's involved in that, as Homolka was, definitely should not. And people deserve to know, right? First of all, she never should have been let out of prison, right? She never should have gotten such a weak sentence. But, given that's the case, people at least deserve to know if she's in their community or she's working somewhere, right? I mean, I saw an article where I think she's volunteered at, a school where children are. I mean, you think parents would kind of want to know if that's what's going on, right? So again, yeah, the system really helps out criminals and hurts victims and puts, law-abiding citizens at risk.
Missing journalist Jamal Khashoggi. What do you think happened, and should Canada take a stronger stand than it has up to now?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty certain he's dead. I mean, he walked into an embassy and then, hasn't walked out. So, if for all the trouble Saudi Arabia's getting over it, if they had video of him walking out, I'm pretty sure they would have released it by now. Sounds like he was, tortured and then chopped up. Pretty horrible stuff. What is interesting though is that, I've read a few different things that he's a Muslim Brotherhood supporter. So he's not exactly a, pro-Western, freedom type of person. Some have also said he had some sort of shady connections working for the Saudi government in some way. Not sure if that's true, but, it's obviously terrible, but I'm not sure if it's really anything that Canada is, too involved in. I'm not a fan of Saudi Arabia at all. I think we should cut off trade with them, never sell them weapons, never let them, send oil to our country. It's disgraceful that we're buying oil from them. But in this case, I don't know, this really has nothing to do with Canada.
Spencer, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Yeah, it was good talking to you.
My guest has been investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at spencerfernando.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. If you have any questions for Spencer or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.